Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Boss's daughter runs rampant. How her unchecked behavior almost destroyed a childcare center. The second story. How I walked away from a toxic manager and found the courage to pursue my true career path. The third story. Workers take a stand. Branch shutdown sends powerful message to big law firm. The first story is, boss allows her teenage daughter to get away with everything at work. Started a new job recently. I spent a week getting illegal substances tested and background checked, as well as lectures about how phones are not allowed in the classroom. It's a child care center, how state regulations must be followed to the exact letter, and how I had to take a pay cut because I had to prove I was worth them matching my previous salary at my old location. Owner's daughter works at the center and is sent to be my assistant. Shows up smelling like she was smoking something illegal, and is literally talking on the phone with her AirPods in the entire day. All the other teachers roll their eyes at her and make snide comments behind her back, but no one dares say anything. I leave earlier than her, and there is a sign in the room listing the duties of closers. Closers are specified as people who are there after 5, and I'm not. Fast forward to when I get home. Boss calls me. Apparently I'm in trouble for not vacuuming the room, even though the sign says it's a closer duty. Boss says the sign is wrong and I have to do it because I'm the lead teacher. I guarantee it's cause little princess complained that she had to vacuum. Yeah, I'm only staying here till I can find a new job. Nepotism is found even in the smallest of places. Update. To follow up this story, I thought it couldn't get worse, but oh boy it did. So I started looking for other jobs, but still was at this daycare for a bit longer. I was told by the director, not the owner, that I was in the right about the whole vacuuming thing, but she couldn't do anything about it because everyone had to bow and scrape to the owner. Little princess comes in yelling at me in front of the kids, that everyone knows I'm on my phone all day. Everyone knows that. Why are you trying to get me in trouble? I told her to not yell in front of the kids, and she stormed out saying, "Good luck getting anybody to work with you in here." Director came in and told little princess that she was dividing the kids in the classroom in half, and she was responsible for her half and I was responsible for mine. This seemed to work okay for the next couple of days. There were about 9 or 10 in the classroom, and we could only be at a ratio of 7-to-1 because of the ages of the kids. 2 days later, little princess starts throwing a fit because she didn't want to take a certain kid. She wanted to leave him with me because she didn't feel like dealing with him. I pulled her aside so the kids couldn't hear and told her I'd take him, but she needed to trade for one of mine. There was another child with behavior issues and he was originally assigned to her, but we had traded. I said I was fine with trading back. She immediately started whining. "No, there's no trading. You have to take both of them. You're the teacher. I'm just here to help out and I don't want them." I told her yes, she was here to help, so she needed to do what director said and take care of her assigned kids. She then began yelling louder and insisting that those kids have never been assigned to her. I get to pick which kids I want every day. You stay at 7 and I just get the overflow, so I actually only need to watch 2 kids today. I told her that was definitely not how it worked. Director came in and told her no, absolutely not. She needed to take her assigned 5 kids regardless. But then director proceeded to lecture me about how you need to listen to little princess because she knows more about state regulations than you. I said, so having your AirPods in all day is abiding by state regulations? And director quickly said, we had to talk about that and left. Afterwards, little princess took 2 kids to another classroom so I could stay at ratio, and stormed out of the building. Of course, director allowed it, and when she came back, I still saw her with her phone and AirPods. A bit later, I went on break. I was sitting in the break room, and was trying to pay an online bill. I opened my bank app and saw there was only $16 in my checking account. In a panic, I checked my history, and there were 2 huge purchases, made the day before that I definitely didn't make. I thought my account had been hacked, so I grabbed my purse so I could cancel my debit card. Debit card was gone. I had seen it in my purse on Sunday, and on Monday I had only gone to work and back and hadn't spent anything. It had only been at work. The lockers in the break room didn't work, and we weren't allowed to keep our purses in the classroom. I canceled the card and my bank promised to get the money back. They did, and I went back to my classroom. Little princess and her entitled mother, the owner, were waiting in there for me. EM announces, "Okay, so we need to talk about..." I cut her off and told her that my card had been stolen out of my purse. She immediately began fawning and acting oh so shocked, but little princess stared at the table and wouldn't speak, respond, or make eye contact. I reported it to the police, but debit card theft isn't really a big deal to them, so nothing really got done. But it definitely scared my boss. EM sent out a group text to the staff saying someone has been stealing. I know no one will confess, but we have to start locking up our belongings. And promised to get the lockers fixed. The next day I was feeling pretty rough, but went into work anyway. Everyone, including the formerly nice director, was acting angry, rude, and defensive to me. EM told us we had all had to skip our breaks because she wanted to have the staff meeting now instead of after work. Still don't get paid for our hour lunch breaks either. I was peeved about it, especially because I was feeling sick, but I figured she wanted to address the stealing, so I waited to hear what she had to say. She lectured us for a while how we had to follow all the rules to the letter, even though her daughter breaks them all, and praised her own high-end establishment. Like, woman, you're a daycare in a church basement. She finally brought up the stealing, and all she said was, I discovered someone has been stealing, and more people came forward after OP, and said they had cash taken from their purses. But we're not going to say anything else about it, because we don't need that negativity here. I was floored. So we were just going to forget about it? I was getting sicker by the minute and finally had to leave. I asked to leave, as childcare centers aren't supposed to allow teachers to be in the room if they're feeling so bad or have a fever. EM told me to go lie down in the break room for a bit, and I'll decide if you can leave or not. Finally, she came in and said, I'm gonna let you leave this time, but I expect you to be at work tomorrow. I don't accept excuses, and we work through being sick here. I've had a hard life and I only value hard workers. I don't know if it's your time of the month or something, but a stomach ache isn't that big of a deal. I looked her in the eye and told her that if I was still throwing up or had a fever, I would not come in and endanger kids, as per state regulations. She backed down on that, but then kept telling me how she had such a difficult life, and only valued hard work. She then began harassing me about a day I had scheduled for a court date, demanding to know why I needed the entire day, and why I felt a court date was important enough to miss work over. 'Cause she had such a hard life and wouldn't have stayed a whole day off work just for that. I had finally had it and told her a bit of the truth about my background, which I won't go into here, but it involved being essentially held prisoner and forced to work for an abusive family member for 14 years. EM reacted in shock and then began saying all the standard insensitive things. Well, why didn't you just leave? Because I was young, not allowed to learn to drive, had no car, no money, and was kept isolated from everyone? Well, why didn't you sue them? I'm currently in court proceedings against them now. That's where I'll be on that day off you don't want to let me take. She finally had no more to say, then smiled fawningly and said, well, I guess you can relate to me about having a hard life then. See you tomorrow. I called off the next day and began aggressively job hunting. Another job called me for an interview the day after, on Friday, so I called off work and went. They hired me on the spot, a high-end Montessori school no less, and I emailed my boss and quit that same day. She sent me a nasty email about how they follow state regulations to a T, and I'm obviously very untrustworthy. I did not care. I never found out who stole my card, but all the behaviors point to it being Little Princess, and EM was just trying to cover her butt. I called and reported them to the state for every violation I witnessed. They sent the report directly to CPS, who called me for more details and said they were getting sent to investigate. I start my new job on Monday, making a higher salary and getting a lot of free schooling and career advancement opportunities, so I'm doing great and very relieved to be out of that basement hellhole. The second story is, I did it. I quit my job tonight. I thought it would be harder than it was, honestly. I'd only been at that restaurant for 5 months, and I've never given up on a job earlier than a year in. I would have kept at it but for one manager. This woman was always crabby. Sometimes rarely you could talk to her without her snapping at you, but mostly needing to ask her a question or even worse telling her you made a mistake with a table was majorly anxiety-inducing. The major incidents were, my aunt died a couple months ago and I still came into work the day I found out, even though I was a wreck, because it was Friday night, and they always needed all hands on deck. She at least recognized I was pretty messed up, and promised to get me out early, and then made sure I didn't leave until the only other servers still there were the closers. I sprained my wrist a few weeks ago, and had to start wearing a brace for it. Yay, cheapest healthcare I can afford. And I didn't take any days off work to let it heal, because I really needed the money. It was pretty obvious I could only carry heavy plates with my good hand, and only small ones with my bad one. And she still kept stuffing heavy plates into my bad hand and yelling at me when I tried to refuse. The last month, every Friday I've been scheduled on the indoor patio, The restaurant is attached to a mall and made almost no money. Line out the door, 2-page wait list, and I made no more than $40 every Friday because no one wants to sit on the patio. Then 2 weeks ago, she wrote me up. In 8 years, I've never been written up for anything. I was one of 3 servers who opened the restaurant Sunday, the worst day to open, because the Saturday closers never do what they're supposed to do. The dividers for the line were nowhere to be found, so we just arranged the line as best we could without them. We had no clean coffee pots or tea urns, and no clean sanitizer buckets. And on Sundays, the dishwasher doesn't come in until we open, so we couldn't do anything but set up the patio and wait. By the time the dishwasher got there and we finally got clean sandy buckets, we were busy and the manager had one of the new servers fill them. Turns out they got filled with the wrong chemical and she was peeved. After the SH was over, she wrote up all 3 openers for not properly setting up the line, not making tea and coffee before we opened, and not filling the sandy buckets properly. All things we literally were unable to do. We could have if we'd had a dishwasher when we were there, instead of an hour later when we opened, which multiple people have complained about, but she's never done anything about it even though she makes the schedule. So tonight after my shift, I caught a different manager, a really awesome one, and told him I couldn't do it anymore. I'm amazed by how calm I was at the time, because I'm shaking now, but he told me lots of people have similar complaints about her. Turns out she's leaving in a few months and giving the restaurant over to him, and he said if I want to come back then he'll take me back in a heartbeat. I don't think I want to go back to serving at all. It's been 8 years and while waiting tables alone has not caused my poor mental health, it certainly contributed to it. I'm in grad school and I think it's finally time to try and get experience for my degree. So last week I started putting in applications at offices instead of at restaurants. I have an interview next Tuesday and I really hope it goes well. At least if that doesn't work out, I have a guaranteed serving job to go back to in 4 months. The third story is closing down the branch because everyone has left. I used to work at a big law firm. I was there for a couple of years and the job got steadily worse during that time. Performance started getting measured and we'd be threatened if our stats weren't right. Pay was low for the sector, and no extra pay to help with the heating bills when we were told to work from home last year. Oppressively high workload, etc. Meanwhile, we were all bringing in loads of money for the company, which charged clients way too much. When I started, there were 3 other workers in our branch. Head office is a couple of 100 miles away, and no other branches in between. One of my colleagues left after I had been there 6 months. Another left after I'd been there a year. I left earlier this year and set up my own business. The last employee held on until now, needing the money, but has just handed in her notice. The company has tried to recruit to replace us, but are so bad at retaining staff and offer such low pay that they haven't managed to get anyone new. I'm so happy that we've shown them that they can't treat us like this, and now the company has to shut down this branch. Subscribe, click the like button if you want to support the channel. Thank you for watching.